Alright, so it's a tad hard for you to see what I'm doing next. So this is going to fit up under here on an angle underneath the fan, which is just literally above where my hand is here. So I've just got to get it on a slight angle, so I've just got to rough out that angle and then cut it with the angle grinder. So I'm just going to put that up under there. Actually, what I should do, this is going to make it slightly scientific. So I've got that sitting roughly where I want it. I've now got the trusty old square, so I'm just going to try and line that up at the same time and then draw a line. Wish me luck, because I don't have enough fingers. What I might do instead is clamp it, and then I can draw the line afterwards, because the line's going to be in a slightly different spot. So I've got my little cute baby clamp here. I'll hold that well enough. All I've got to do is just get the angle there. Might have to move it down a bit depending on that. And there we go. We've got the angle there now. So I'll just draw that line because that's the angle's right for where it was. So it was level. Now, so I've got the angle here, but I don't actually want to cut it there. I've got to move it up a little bit. So I've now just got to measure that down, remeasure the angle with the actual tool, and then I can do the next bit. Alright, so I've just got a angle measuring tool here. Haven't used it before. Obviously need to get the battery going. Need a battery, doesn't come with a battery. I think I might just do it manually because I don't need to actually read it for this one. I'll deal with the battery another day. There we go. Okay, so the original line is here. Cut line that I'm actually going to cut on is here, but I'm only going to cut this piece here out. I want this piece to actually go up, so I'm just going to be cutting this piece here out. Alright, I've got both of those marked out now. I'm just going to grab the angle grinder down. I need to replace the disc on this. I don't know what I did with it last time. Shiny. Alright, that's one. See, I've got one nice. You can see I've got one nice angle there, and now I'll just flip it over and do the other one. Alright, that's both of those done. I'll see how it fits. Alright, as you can kind of see up under there, that fits actually not too bad. I'm quite happy with that. You can see that's fitting up there quite nicely. There is a little bit of a hole there, but that's okay. And that's pushing up underneath the side of that, so it's not going to be interfering with the motor at all. And that's now pushing up against the back of the inverter as well, which is pretty much where I wanted it. It is off square. So when it was on there, it was a little bit out of square, but that's okay because the fan's actually out of square. That went up there is slightly crooked, but it's also pointing slightly towards the bench, which is kind of, I think, what I sort of inverted commas wanted. It's not actually what I was trying to do, but that's just the way it ended up, and I'm actually happy with that. Alright, so I managed to get that out without too many problems. So that's the way the fan sits, and then this is going to bolt onto there. The reason why I wanted to take it out was because I think when I'm trying to put this together, I think the angles are going to make it really hard for me to actually do it up there. So what I'm going to basically try and do is put a couple of bolts through there, and that should be it. So time for me to dig into my trusty nuts and bolts box. So I'll be back in about half an hour, because as you can see, it is just a toolbox full of nuts and bolts and screws and all sorts of stuff. So any volunteers to come and help me sort it out? Silence? No? Okay. Alright, as you can see, I've ended up with a bit of a selection here. So I think I've got my two that I'm going to use. Each of these two. And the rest of them can just go to the side for now. Because there's a couple there that I've actually got nuts for now, so I'll probably just find another box to put those in. Alright, time to drill some holes and see how we fit it all together. Alright, so there's a couple of spots that just aren't quite lining up. And that's because of the parts of the motor here for the fan. So I'm just going to do some trimming. So I'm just going to trim that little bit there off. And there's a spot around here where the motor actually mounts. So I'm just going to cut that off as well. That's better. So there's just a couple of spots around here that are catching. So where this motor mounts in here was one. There was a spot on the plastic part here for the actual motor, and there was a couple of spots just around the back here where the motor actually clips into the frame. So I'll just cut those back just to make it easier to fit. Alright, so I figured because I don't want to drill into the fan on this, I should put a shank on the drill bit to stop it from going too far. So it's more a collar than a shank, isn't it? So I literally only need this to go through and then stop. Alright, so you can see it's just got the collar on there. Hopefully it works. Okay, so that's the first hole. That was just a pilot hole because I've got a bigger drill bit, so I figured I'd do a smaller one first. I'll just finish off these two holes first. Alright, now I'll grab a collar for this. Let's see how this works. Oh, didn't. Alright, as you can see, just bent that pin, so I'll just straighten it out, thankfully. Just give everything a wipe off because of all the cutting fluid, and then see if I can put it together. So the good thing is it will go both ways as far as putting the nut or the bolting, doesn't matter which side I'm going to put in, it'll come through. I was going to try and put the bolt in from this side, but I don't think I'm going to be able to get it there. Trying to get hold of the nut from this side is going to be fun too. So I finally got those on. As you can see, I ended up having to clamp it just because the bolts are only just long enough to go through, and because everything was sort of bending and warping, it actually wouldn't go on properly. I've now got a slight problem with it's not spinning properly. Alright, time to hang this back up and see how it fits. Okay, as you can see, that's quite happily mounted there now, so I can push it back against the inverter back there. The fan's still pushing some air out around this side, so I can push that back along there. So now I've just got to put the piece of metal across and up there. So we'll move on to that bit next. Alright, so obviously I've just got to mark the point on here as to where I've got to cut it from. I don't know if you can see the mark on the metal there, but it's there. Time to do some more cutting. Alright, and there we go, that's cut, slightly crookedly. Blade decided to go for a bit of a wander, that's obviously my fault. So what I'm going to try and do now, wish me luck, is mark a line across here and heat it up and bend it across that line, and then do the same here somewhere, wherever it ends up lining up, to hook it up to the other part of it. So the metals, sorry, that piece of wood that it's got to go into is about 16 mil thick, I think. So we'll just confirm that. Yeah, so that's 16. So if I go for 20, actually, what's that? That's 20. What are you? Oh, you're 16. Okay. So I'll just use this piece of wood as a marker. So I'm just going to bend this slightly on an angle, hopefully. So the plan's going to be to clamp it between these two pieces of aluminium here, because that's all I've got that's about the right length. Then put the whole thing in the vise and heat this piece up, and then tap it over a little bit. Alright, so obviously I'm doing it this way because I don't have a metal bending table, and I'm hardly going to go and buy one for the one or two jobs that I need it for, but it does make it a little bit challenging when I'm trying to do this. And it won't matter too much if it's a bit loose on the angle. It doesn't have to be a perfect fold, but I'm going to try and do it partially properly at least. Okay, so as you can see, I've got just that piece of aluminium clamped to this piece of metal. So what I'm going to do now is just heat up the piece of metal and then tap it over. Alright, as you can see, I've got a bend in that piece of metal now. It actually turned out alright. Probably didn't need to heat it up, but I thought it might be just make it a little bit easier. So now I've got to do the fun one of actually putting an actual right angle on this one. So this will be the fun bit. I've got no idea how I'm going to do it. Probably the same way, but different. Now I've just got to mark where it's going to go. Alright, so I've got my mark along there. Basically all I did was put this up against the wood, and then got this piece of metal to come down off the edge of the inverter for the point of line, and then marked it. So the angle I need on this is not quite 90 degrees. It's going to 90 degrees minus that bit. So I think I'm going to put it in the vise again, but just heat this side up and then just pull the whole thing. Alright, in terms of what I actually wanted to get out of that, it didn't quite work. This part's nice and square, but then the whole frame decided to start moving after I tried to manipulate it some more, so I'm now just going to deal with this, I think. That's okay. I'm sure there's a way I could have clamped it better. Ow, that's hot. So I'll see when that goes up. That's probably going to be too far over. But I think I can just probably push it all together when it's in there. I just need to put another hole in this because I've got the two there, but this one lost its hole when it was over there, and I might just put another one in there. Alright, so I've just had to change the angle significantly because I did say that it wasn't going to need to be 90 degrees, but I went to 90 degrees anyway. So now it's time to actually put this bottom section in, so it'll get screwed onto the wood that the inverter is actually screwed to, and then I've just got to pop a couple of holes through the lid of the old inverter. Okay, so you can see that metal's bent there now and mounted up reasonably well. So now I'm just going to push this part across and bolt those two together as well, and then we'll be done. Alright, that's one screw in. Alright, that's done. So as you can see, the heat that comes off here, or any smoke, will hit this plate here and then divert out this way because of the angle on it. So you can see that's pretty flat from the way I'm holding the camera. So hopefully then any heat, a little bit of smoke obviously will end up coming up here, and then hopefully come out through there as a nice little extra heater for me as I'm working. And then around this side, you can see that obviously I've just used screws there. Maybe I should take those out and put a nut and bolt in one day. But as you can see, that plate's just protecting the inverter from any smoke and heat coming off the fireplace down there. So that'll work okay, I think. Alright, well thanks for making it to the end of this one. Obviously, definitely for those of you who are doing metal work and all that sort of stuff, feel free to throw a comment down there and tell me how I've done it wrong. Happy to learn on this one because metalwork is definitely not my forte. Not a welder, not a metal bender. Obviously, it would have been easier with a proper metal bending tool, but whatever they're called, I can't remember. But yeah, I don't have one. But yeah, if someone's got some techniques on how you do that, then please feel free to share it with me down below in the comments so I can learn. But yeah, thanks for watching until the end. Don't forget to leave me a like and a subscribe, and have yourselves a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.